Good afternoon, folks. Just only me again. This is an example of a way to generate via more or less by chance operations a short piece for two percussion instruments using the following method. In this container, I've got 6 little wadded up pieces of paper, each with either a different rhythm on it or a rest of a quarter rest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these things out one at a time, and I'm going to take those and I'm going to add them to my score, which is a finale score. I don't think you can really see very well. It's over here. And I'm going to write a snare drum part based on that procedure. Okay, and we'll go, we'll go, say, for about, we may do this twice, go through all 6 of these things twice. Okay, so we take the first piece of paper, and we open it up, and we find that on that I have 2 16th notes and an 8th. Okay, so we'll take the 2 16th notes and an 8th, and we will add those. Maybe I can get a little bit of sound out of this if I turn it up a little bit. It does help. It does tend to help if you turn it up. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, something like that. Okay, maybe you'll hear it a little bit better. Okay, so there's the first piece of paper. Then take another piece of paper, pull that out of the plastic container or whatever you'd like. And on this one, I see that I've written 2 8th notes. Okay, so the snare drum rhythm on the second beat of the first measure is going to be 2 8th notes. All right. Next. Here's a fun one. On this third set of papers, I have a 1-beat triplet, so a 3/8 note triplet. So we need to put those in. All right, put that in like so. Need to make that a triplet. And I don't like the way that looks, so I will change it. But there's nothing. We'll bring the 3 down here. Okay. All right, so the next thing to do is to pull another one. I mean, it's a really sort of mechanical process that I'm going through, but this is a good exercise for people to do, especially when they're starting out as compositions. We wonder who I'm talking about. And this one calls for a quarter rest. Okay. So I've got my simple entry rest here first, like so. Add a quarter note, quarter rest. So first 2 beats, first 2 measures, tick-a-tee, T, 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 rest. That's the first rhythm. That's the rhythm in the first 2 measures of the snare drum part. Okay. And then, let's see, the next one is an 8th rest and an 8th note. Okay, we can do that. 8th note, 8th rest rather, 8th note. Okay, we can do that. All right, and then the last one I have, what do we got here? Oh yeah, so you got 8th note, dotted 8th note, and 16th. So dotted 8th note and 16th. Okay, and not sure if this will really help, but I'll try. Let's give this a dynamic of quadruple forte. So maybe you guys can hear it from all the way over there. It sort of sounds like this. Right, so that's the rhythm of the first set of measures. Now the next thing to do is to just crumple these things up again. Yeah, this may seem a little mechanical, but actually, if you're stuck, these kinds of games can really help. And you shake them up again, and it'll just pull one out, whichever the first one you grab. Okay, now this one is the 2/8 notes again. So 2/8 notes, right, like that. Okay, 2/8 notes, followed by, also, yeah, I got using roll of paper, so it's may be hard to figure out what that is. What on earth is that supposed to be? I think that's supposed to be the quarter rest. All right. Something like that. All right, then follow up the next one. And again, of course, if you don't like these things, you can change them. But you'll have something down on paper, so you know you don't like it. Right? All right, then we've got an 8th note, probably 8th rest, 8th note. Okay. So something like this. All right. Yeah, I'm using real old paper, so these things may not survive a third time around, so we may only do this twice. However, that's okay, but you get the idea. Now, the next thing we have is a dotted 8th and 16th. Okay, so let's do that. Dotted 8th and 16th, like so, like this, and next. The next one is 2/16 and an 8th. So, but you know, I think I'm going to turn that around to an 8th and 2/16. Well, yeah, why don't we do the 8th and 2/16 this time? Just turn that one around. See what that sounds like. And again, if you don't like it, you can change it. But you have to have it put down on paper before you can change it. And we may get all philosophical at some point, but you can't change something that doesn't exist. You can't change music that has never been written. No, you can't. Okay, because it hasn't been written. All right, and then finally we have the 8th note triplet again. A little tricky putting these things in here. And again, I may have to. Right, and then we want new bracket. Bring that down like so. And a second. So the rhythm that we've got here in the snare drum part sounds like this. Hopefully you can hear this. If not, I'll just add some kind of maybe some sort of a MIDI file so you can get an idea what it sounds like. Here it is. Something like that. Okay. All right. So there is your first. I know what we could do. I know what we could do. We could take, and then if we want that passage to be a little longer, let's just take every other measure. So like the first measure. Hang on a second. Take the first measure. Hang on a second. And recreate that over here. Add that one. And then let's get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of these things. Just hang on a second. Yeah, I should have planned this out better. Yeah, I know. But hey, notes are getting put on paper, You know what I mean? You can't. What am I looking for? Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, get rid of those things. Get rid of this. There. Okay, and then we don't need that. Okay, and then we're going to take the first measure. Then we're going to copy the third measure. We're going to add that to the bottom of this. And then we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth measure. The sixth measure, copy, paste, like so, V. All right, so that will end us up with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 measure passage of rhythm for snare drum that sounds like this. Yeah, so that's a little rhythm. Not the greatest in the rhythm in the world, but it's a composed rhythm, a down on paper rhythm that can be, and if desired, can either be changed or can be kept as it is. Yeah, something like that. All right, now the next thing we're going to do for the bass drum, we're going to take all of the combinations of the following that are possible: an eighth note and 2/8. Okay, so in other words, ta, ta, ta. Right? And there are a number of ways that those things can be written down on paper. You can write quarter, 2/8, right? Or you can write 2/8 and quarter. Or you can write eighth note, quarter note, eighth note. And so and those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. So let's just set up a pattern and start adding them. So okay, so let's just for curiosity's sake, why don't we start the bass drum rhythm with eighth note, quarter, eighth note. Then go to quarter note, 2/8. Like so, and then I don't know, maybe quarter, 2/8 notes and a quarter. So you get in the first 3 notes you got cinco, pa, ti, 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 ta in the bass drum. Okay, now the other three things we haven't had yet. All right. Okay, so those 3 things are possible. Now let's decide. I don't know. Like maybe, but it might be nice to repeat that third measure. So, well, yeah, but no. Let's do something a little different. How about that quarter, 2/8, quarter, 2/8. Okay, and then maybe write the first three measures backwards. So the first 3 measures are, of course, eighth note, quarter, eighth, first measure, quarter, 2/8, second measure, and then the third measure is 2/8 and a quarter. So let's continue, and then so that backward would be quarter, 2/8, and then 2/8, quarter, and a second, quarter, and then eighth note, quarter, eighth note, hang on a second, eighth note, right, like this, okay, and then, yeah, so something like that, and then I don't know, let's go around, eeny, meeny, miny, moe. We got eighth note, quarter, eighth note, 2 quarters, pardon me, 2 quarters, eighth note, pardon me, quarter note, 2/8, sorry about that, quarter notes, 2/8, something like that, and then and how about why don't we go quarter, quarter, eighth, quarter, no, why don't we stick a quarter rest in there? It might be nice, have a bit of a rest, and then maybe have 2 quarters, maybe have 2/8 notes for the bass drum. And then let's do I don't know, something like, how about quarter, quarter, right? Using that, and then maybe eighth note, quarter, eighth note again. All right, so you get this. Okay. So, all right, and what that sounds like? Let me play the bass drum by itself. And if you can't hear that very well, what it sounds like, let me turn it up a little bit. So this might help if I add a dynamic to it, like so. Put it up there. Okay, try it again. Here's the bass drum again. And if it's still too soft, I'll add. I'll clap it myself. Okay. Now those two. Now let's hear those things. Those two things together. Well, actually, let's do the snare drum part again, just so you remember what that is. Here's the snare drum part again. Okay, so that's the snare drum by itself. All right, now taking those two things together, they sound like this. Yeah, let's do that again. Yeah, so that's sort of a neat little phrase that that works. I think that's kind of nice. Now, so within, oh, I don't know, about 5 minutes, we've gone through a process and automatically generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 measures of music. Okay, now, also possible is to take what was originally in the snare drum part, copy it, and we want to, and let's put that, give that next to the bass drum. But we don't want that. Oh no, see, no. Well, never mind. But there are other ways. But one thing that you could do would be to take the snare drum rhythm and give it to the bass drum, and give the bass drum rhythm give the bass drum. Pardon me, let me say that again. Give the snare drum rhythm to the bass drum, and the bass drum rhythm to the snare drum, which automatically gives you another 20 measures of music, right? And then, by adding different dynamics and things like that, you can make it even more interesting. Okay, so it's really not that difficult to do a little something like this to generate, you know, and how long does that take? Just for curiosity's sake. See how long that takes. So that takes about 1/4 of a minute. So, and repeating that with variations will give you 30 seconds. Repeating those things will give you a minute. So it's really not that difficult a process to, and it's also sometimes a fun intellectual game to do this kind of thing. And yeah, I think this is kind of fun. And as I've said before, this may seem a little bit mechanical at the beginning, but nonetheless, this phrase has now been written. Okay, and it didn't take very long. But after a few decisions were made, it didn't take very long. So that process can easily generate some reasonably interesting music, which can be looked at by teachers and given suggestions by teachers. Teachers can't make suggestions if students don't write passages. We can't do that. All right, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this little ditty, and I will talk with you soon. Bye-bye. And oh yeah, and I'll put copies of this up on in the links, so you can at least see the rhythm that I came up with. Okay. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.